Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about two of the most interesting topics I think we'll cover in the Advanced Pharmacology course as we introduce the topics of biosimilars and monoclonal antibodies. I know these topics can be tough to conceptually grasp for some students, but I think once you grasp the concepts of these particular agents, it will fuel your understanding and your excitement for the future of what can happen in an advanced pharmacology setting. So what I've done is I prepared a PowerPoint presentation to give you a brief overview. There may be additional narrative that I add that are not included in the PowerPoint slides, so it's important to watch the video till its conclusion. And I'm looking forward to having more detailed discussion with you after you complete your assigned readings and also respond to the question prompts in the discussion board. So what is a biosimilar? A biosimilar are pharmaceutical products that are manufactured to be highly similar to another biological medical product that has already been manufactured. For example, think insulin. Insulin's been around for a long time. However, we now have biosimilars to insulin, which are created using advanced recombinant techniques. So insulin, human insulin, porcine insulin, bovine insulin, porcine and bovine for those who may not be familiar with that terminology, insulin derived from pigs, insulin derived from cows, and now we have human-derived insulin through recombinant technology, which is made in bacteria. So that's a biosimilar. So it's a similar molecule to one that already exists biologically within the organism. So as we begin to talk about biosimilars, we have to define what biosimilars are and what they're not. So biosimilars are not the same as generic drugs. For example, in your basic pharmacology course, you probably covered aspirin or acetylsalicylic acid. For example, aspirin comes in a variety of trade names as well as a generic. A generic drug is not the same as a biosimilar because a generic drug just has to be manufactured to have the same efficacy as the brand name or trademark drug. Biosimilars are a little bit different. Biosimilars have to correspond to exacting specifications and have the same bioactivity as the drug or compound that they're simulating. So in that way, biosimilars are different because biosimilars actually must mirror the biologically active compounds that they are simulating. And all biosimilars, like all pharmacologic agents, have to be approved by the FDA. So as we discussed, biosimilars are usually reproduced or produced by recombinant technology. Some common biosimilars that are produced that are pharmacologically used as agents now include insulin, human growth factors, growth hormone, and signaling protein. Some examples of these agents that are used include filgrastim, recombinant human insulin, interferons, and recombinant growth hormone. Sometimes we can modify a biosimilar to promote its lifespan or the half-life of a biosimilar when administered. For example, the pegylation of interferon alpha, which is used in the treatment of hepatitis C, the pegylation process extends the half-life of this biosimilar agent. Oftentimes, biosimilar agents can often mirror the efficacy of other biological active agents or biological pharmaceutical agents, including monoclonal antibodies, which I'll go into a little bit more discussion into next. So, what are monoclonal antibodies? Monoclonal antibodies are immunoresponsive proteins that are made by clones or identical immune cells. Monoclonal antibodies have a specific affinity to a single binding site, which we generically call an epitope. Monoclonal antibodies are developed using recombinant DNA and cell culture techniques. Lastly, monoclonal antibodies can be all human. They can be chimeric, which means they're part human and part another species, or antibodies derived from a completely different species. The important key fact here is no matter how the antibody is derived, it is a single clone. It is one type of antibody that has a specific binding site for a specific substrate. And that is what gives this pharmaceutical or pharmacological therapy its advantage because it is highly specific to a single binding site. So, what are monoclonal antibodies used for? They can be used for a variety of different medical conditions, including inflammatory disorders, autoimmune disorders, viral infections, and malignancies, cancers. And they are often referred to because of that, once again, that strong affinity or that high selected binding site. They're often referred to as targeted therapies. And just like biosimilars, monoclonal antibodies must be approved by the FDA prior to use. So, biosimilars, monoclonal antibodies. If you consider the numerous number of monoclonal antibodies that can be produced in terms of all the different hybridized species or chimeric antibodies that can be produced, how do you keep track of these things? How do you classify? How do we keep track of the naming conventions? The good news is that the World Health Organization, as well as the United States Adopted Names Division, has ensured that these agents can be easily classified by coming up with a naming convention. By convention, all monoclonal antibodies end with the same stem, MAB or MAB. This MAB naming convention allows us to look at a drug or a drug name, especially a generic name or non-trade name, and be able to determine easily that this is a monoclonal antibody that we're dealing with. Now, by definition, all these drug names or these names that we use for these products that are derived from cell-based therapies will have three parts: a prefix, which can be variable, a targeted substem, which is variable, and that common stem. That common stem is a part we're going to key in on. So if you see a drug listed with a generic name, non-trade name of MAB, you know you're dealing with a monoclonal antibody. For example, let's take the topic of infliximab. Infliximab is a chimeric monoclonal antibody that was developed in mice, which also has a humanized component, which was designed to help modulate the immune response by suppressing TNF-alpha. This is a monoclonal antibody that binds to the tumor necrosis factor alpha in the bloodstream and wherever it's located. This pharmaceutical agent is highly efficacious at diminishing the availability of tumor necrosis factor alpha within the host, and by doing so, downregulating an inflammatory cascade. But as we move forward into the readings, we'll discuss why this three-part nomenclature system is important, because when we talked about the prefix being variable and a targeted substem being variable and a common stem, this will allow us a lot of flexibility in determining the origin and the target of these agents. One, the target tissue or the target site of activity will be most likely in the prefix portion of the drug name. The targeted substem will give us an indication of how or what construct was this agent designed in. For example, is it a humanized mouse monoclonal antibody? Is it a mouse-human monoclonal antibody? Or is it a human-human monoclonal antibody? So once again, there's a lot of variability and a lot of naming conventions that have taken place, and we'll deal with this topic a little bit more in our discussion and in the readings, because I think this is an exciting area to help, one, clarify how these drugs or how these agents are named, as well as providing a little bit more conceptual framework in terms of what's in a name when it comes to monoclonal antibodies. And I just want to leave you with this. Because the naming conventions internationally changed in 2017, this is a topic that will be covered in greater detail in the assigned readings and in our online discussion. I can't wait to hear from you or read your comments as to the question prompts I will put in the online discussion board, as well as some of the questions I'd like you to develop over the course of the next few days as we finish out this module. I look forward to seeing you in the learning management system, and hopefully this video is helpful in getting you a better conceptual framework of both biosimilars and monoclonal antibodies.